Hello guys, welcome back to your favorite series on GRAZY TV, reading your real paranormal, unexplainable mystery stories. This is a series where I ask my real subscribers for their real paranormal encounter stories. So if you have any unexplainable stories such as ghosts, time loop, premonition dreams that you had, leave a comment down below and you might be picked for my next video. I always start off the video by updating you guys if I had any unexplainable mystery stories since my last video, and yes, I had an interview with the premonition man, Mr. Robinson, a couple months back. He is a dream psychic, meaning he is able to predict major world events through his dreams. He's worked with the UK police, he's worked with many documentaries. If you have not seen that interview, go check it out somewhere, card up here. But ever since I met him, I've been having crazy dreams, premonition dreams as well. So a couple months back, I remember that I was having a sleep paralysis, and if you guys know me, I've been having sleep paralysis when I was a kid every single day. I've never met anyone till this day that had as much sleep paralysis as me. It's calmed down as I became an adult, but once in a while I get it. I recently figured out that sleep paralysis is a door to lucid dreaming / astral projection. Usually it does feel like your soul is being literally sucked out, like someone's sucking your consciousness out, but this time I literally felt my flesh, my skull, and my bones. Like I literally felt what it felt like to be just a flesh human. Like my soul and my body felt separated, but it was able to feel what it felt like, I guess, dying. Like that's the most closest description I can give you guys of how I felt. I wasn't scared though, because it led to the craziest astral projection or lucid dream that I had in a very long time. I remember asking my consciousness, what is the source? What does the source look like? And when I asked that question, my consciousness took me to this image. And this is the closest image that I can find. To me, the source can be God, the universe, all consciousness, everything, like one. It was literally for a couple seconds that this image flashed and I went into a different dream. I guess it kind of looks like the donut from Everything Everywhere All at Once movie. I guess everything ends and starts with something like a black hole. So what do you guys think about this image that my consciousness showed me? Now the first paranormal story is the one that I found from Diva Jessica, which is my favorite Korean true crime YouTuber. This story takes place in Japan after the big earthquake and tsunami in 2011. And I just like to say that I already recorded this video, but I accidentally deleted the footages. Stupid me. So I have to film this all over again, set up my mic, literally everything. So just a like in this video if you like these series. It will really help me to feel a little better because I was so annoyed. So this story is called The 3 p.m. Call from Tohoku Earthquake Ghosts. The Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, or the Great Sendai earthquake, occurred on March 11th, 2011 at 2:47 p.m. It was a magnitude 9.0 earthquake that struck off the Pacific coast of Japan's Tohoku region, especially affecting the city of Sendai. So the earthquake was caused by the subduction of the Pacific plate beneath the Okotsu plate. This resulted in a massive release of seismic energy, leading to widespread shaking, which also triggered a tsunami that went up to 40 meters. On this day, over 15,000 people lost their lives. Thousands more injured and missing even till this day. It swept away entire communities, buildings, infrastructures, and as you see, this big ship is found literally on top of houses, and you see the devastating effects that this earthquake and tsunami had back in 2011. It also caused a nuclear accident at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, leading to one of the worst nuclear disasters in human history. And they say almost 500,000 people lost their homes and went homeless in a matter of seconds. So this unexplainable story happened 1 year since this event, so in 2012. And the Japanese government used manpower to build some kind of a relief center building or an office. Now this office was responsible to get the city back to where it was, to clean up, to take care of the constructions, rebuilding. So you see that this was a big project and a long way to rebuild the city. So at this relief center office, there was a new employee. It was his first day at work here at the office, and again, everybody was busy doing some paperwork, and it was around 3 p.m. when one of the phones rang. Now nobody seems to be picking up this phone call, and he obviously thought that everybody is busy, so he went up and asked one of his coworkers, hey, should I be picking up this phone call? And his coworkers seemed to kind of just shrug it off, say that, hey, I'm busy, and he kind of like ignored that question. Now it's the next day, and the new guy comes back to the office. He's working also on a lot of things. Everybody's still busy, and again, around 3 p.m. a phone call would ring ring again. And oddly, no one seems to be picking up just this 3 p.m. phone call. There was a lot of employees around. I get that everybody's busy, but it just seemed like everyone was just ignoring, purposely avoiding this call. Now, this new employee thought that in the Asian culture, the maknae or the youngest one or the new employee is supposed to kind of pick up the slack for everybody. So he thought, oh, I'm supposed to be the one picking this up. And according to him, once he picked up the phone, all the employees almost like stopped what they were doing and was silent. They were just like staring at him like, uh-oh, he just picked up the phone call. But as soon as he picked up the phone call and heard what was on the other line, he immediately understood why nobody wanted to on purpose pick up this call. And this is what he claims he heard on the other line. When he said hello, he would hear someone trying to speak underwater. Like bubble noises and someone like trying to scream or like say something underwater, but he couldn't figure out exactly what they were trying to say. This went on for about 10 seconds. He got the shivers and hung up. I just got the goosebumps, you guys. He now figured out why just this 3 p.m. call nobody wanted to pick up. And in the beginning, when they would start to get this phone call around 3 p.m., obviously the other employees would pick up. They would hear the same thing where it sounded like someone was trying to speak underwater and they couldn't actually understand what they were saying. So they actually decided to track where this phone number and this call was coming from and sent help, like 911 rescue team. And when the rescue team went there to the location, nobody was there. And actually, this location and phone number they found out came from a public payphone that was located before the earthquake and the tsunami washed it away. So technically, this phone booth doesn't even exist anymore. Now, why 3 p.m. though? Just like Nikola Tesla and some other very, very smart human beings said, the key to the universe is 369. There's something about number 369 that seems to be sometimes a portal from the other side of the dimension or world to our physical dimension. Could it be that 3 p.m. is like a time where ghosts or spirits are able to manipulate frequencies in order to try and communicate with us in this dimension? It's almost as if like our world and the universe is like a computer program where if you just know the right frequencies and timing to reach the other side, it can happen, just like a phone call. Like I can't see Wi-Fi, like I can't see my data and how I connect to my friend over the phone, yet we're able to. So maybe it's something like that where on the other side, ghosts and spirits or deities in other dimensions are able to connect with us through technology just at the right frequency, kind of like a radio. So maybe the ghosts or spirits that passed away from the tsunami, maybe they don't know they passed away. Maybe they're stuck somewhere and are trying to reach out for help. And like I said, with this donut thing that I saw in my dream and a lot of spiritual teachers saying that time is not linear and technically everything happens at the same time, maybe these ghosts and spirits are able to time travel to a different time and use that phone booth to try and reach out to us in this timeline. There's also many different stories from Japan, especially after earthquakes and tsunamis like this. Stories of taxi drivers around that area after years since the disaster, where they pick up a client or customer. They tell the taxi driver to take them to a specific location. The taxi driver gets there, he turns around and nobody's there. Like the customer is just gone. And maybe they don't know that they passed away, and in that split second or couple minutes, they're able to tap into our frequency and in our timeline to communicate with us. Every time I hear about this tsunami stories, I just get the chills. Let me know what you guys have thought about the story. Next story is by my subscriber Brooke, and again, this story has to do with the number 3. It all started right as the clock turned to 3 a.m. My twin sister jokingly sent me a text saying it's the devil's hour. We lived at my parents' house and our room were across the hallway from each other, so I peeked into my sister's room and told her that text wasn't funny, and now I was scared. I ended up sleeping in my sister's room on the floor because I was creeped out by her message. A little time passed and I started watching YouTube videos on my phone in the dark, when all of a sudden my sister's text popped up again. I had completely deleted the first message she sent me, and I raced off the floor to demand to my sister why she sent me the same text again. When I looked at her bed, she was fast asleep. My heart dropped. I slowly turned my head and saw across the room her phone was plugged into the wall and charging. I woke up fast and told her what happened. We both were uneasy about the whole situation, so we kind of just stood there. I told my sister then to check her phone in case there was a glitch, and nothing seemed out of the normal. I deleted her messages completely again, turned off my phone, and then back on. 15 minutes passed without any messages. I was back lying on the floor watching a video when the message came again. It's the devil's hour. I stopped what I was doing, showed my sister, then we both gathered our blankets, pillows, and our phones and sprinted downstairs. I couldn't figure out why I kept receiving that message. My sister's phone showed no extra text history, yet in the space of 15, 17, 21, 40, 45 minutes, I got the text randomly sent to my phone 6 times. We were so scared, especially because we both felt this uneasy presence in my sister's room upstairs when the text started happening. Craziest thing though is that all of the messages stopped abruptly once the clock turned 4 a.m. To this day, nothing like this has ever happened. We can't explain the text messages that were sent to me by an unknown force at 3 a.m. Something about the number 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. Like there's some kind of frequency maybe they're able to enter. I don't know if this was a real glitch. Not to mention, Brooke got it 6 times. Not 7 times, not 5 times. 6 times she received this message. I hope your sister wasn't playing around and she has some kind of app where you could send messages. I don't know, y'all. The next story is by Michelle, and to me this sounds like a past life story. I had a dream where I was in love with a man, and then we went to this college. They were speaking to me in Chinese, and I was walking to my dorm, and this girl stabbed me when I was walking up the stairs. Closed my eyes, and when I opened them, I was at the hospital. He was crying, then I saw the girl. She started to confront him. Then he left to the bathroom, and she stood there saying stuff like, "Leave him." I got up and I started crying. He came back in the room and so did the doctor. He told me I had to get a surgery. Everyone left and I was alone. Then I had the surgery and they took all my fat away. And a couple days later, I was back in my dorm with my new friend. Lastly, I went on a date with the man, and then bam, the other girl that hated me killed me because she wanted him to herself. She was like, "He's mine." I had died and then woke up crying because she was pregnant in the end. I have this dream on my birthdays every time, but I had it last night. If you have this dream every birthday, it seems like maybe the day you died, you also decided to reincarnate back. I don't know, maybe this is like an unresolved kind of emotions and trauma that you had in that past life that's continuing to like attach to you in this life. Because according to Michelle's last name, you're definitely not Chinese. You could have been like a Chinese lady in the past life, and out of jealousy, rage, that's how you got murdered. To go a little farther, maybe the people from this past life also reincarnated and are in your life right now, and then maybe the dream is like a warning saying that if you have a jealous friend, maybe it's time to cut those toxic people off. GS says, "We have a word in my culture language that translates to bad face in the English language. We believe people who witness these spiritual warnings of a person's ill-fated death is often spiritually gifted people or folks with thin spirits, like shamans, spiritual healers, and weak-spirited people. The OGs say if you ever see a person appear with dead-like physical appearance and then they go back to looking normal in a quick glimpse, the person's spirit is showing you that they're going to die soon. Death for these people is usually tragic. Tragic death for these individuals mean tragic death that results in the person dying so suddenly and unexpectedly, like vehicle accidents, drowning, fires, etc. My mom and dad would say back in the homelands when this happened, whoever that witnesses it has to immediately tie a white string or cut a piece of red fabric and tie it around the wrist or ankle of that person. You then say to the person that their spirit should be embarrassed to show themselves in that form because they're still alive. A shaman is usually called the next day, and a shaman ceremony takes place because a person's family is now trying to race against all odds to help save the person. We've heard these stories growing up from our aunts and uncles where people looked like this and they died of drowning, house fires, hunting stories gone wrong, etc. I believe things reveal themselves from time to time to us whether we go seeking them or not. Very interesting. This story reminds me of a video that I did, a case of a Korean actress who passed away, and only like a day or a couple days before she would upload her last YouTube video, and there was an odd glitch. She left in that video almost like she didn't edit this out out. And there were other signs within this video, reoccurring numbers. Or a lot of people say this could have been like an indication, almost as like a warning or a heads up that something's gonna happen, which is just crazy to think about. And maybe confronting the spirit will have an effect, almost like pleading with the Grim Reaper, like, hey, give us more time, go away. Next story is by Drew, and this story is about listening to your gut feelings. Once my sister brought a boyfriend home. She had several before this, and I knew straight away he was going to be abusive. When I looked into his eyes, I felt a stabbing feeling in my heart, as if someone was stabbing me over and over again. Then there was a voice in my head saying, get him out now. So my sister knew what I knew and felt. Later, everyone else in the house started seeing the same signs of abuse, but didn't know how bad it was like I did, not even my sister, who was the one going through this. After they got married, she finally realized he was physically, mentally, and abusing. I had a dream before this time when they were still dating that he came over with a knife and I had to stop him. Strange thing is, I didn't see it as a nightmare since I ended his life instead in the dream. I believe if she hadn't finally seen the real him, or dad and mom taking his weapon away during the breakup, he would have tried to end her life eventually. So a lot of people say our gut feelings is like our body and our soul telling us something, like, hey, something might be wrong. Hey, I don't think that person is right. So sometimes our gut feeling is to be trusted. Now that isn't to say that every first impression is gonna be like this. There's many times where I meet someone and literally my impression of them are totally the opposite. Next story is by Arham. This happened to my brother of my mom's colleague around 2 to 3 years ago. The brother A was going home late at night around 3-4 a.m. when this happened. Again, the number 3. What? For background, A was a police constable. He never believed in paranormal or ghosts. When he did not come home that night and wasn't picking up any calls, the family placed a missing report. His bike was found on the roadside of his way home, and it was all in ruins. The police tried to find him in the area, but they couldn't, as there was no traces left of him. After being missing a week, A came back home with one of the ears severed and his ribs broken. Also, he had little fractures and bite marks all over his body. When taken to the hospital, the doctor said that they cannot tell which animal bit him. The bite marks were strange, and they didn't match any teeth marks of the local animals in the area. A woke up after 2 days of being hospitalized, and what he told shocked everybody, and the doctors believed he was hallucinating due to the shock. Here's what A told of what happened to him. I was coming home around 3-4 a.m. It was really late, and all I could see on the roads was no one. After some time, I crossed a person who wanted to hitchhike. At first, I hesitated and went past him. Then I stopped my bike to see if he was still there or not, and he was. He asked if he could hitchhike. I asked him where he was going. He said to X village. I told him to get on as he was going the same way I was going. Everything went normal for 5 to 10 minutes, but after some time, I felt the burden over my shoulders and then all over my body. I thought of turning back to look, but I don't know why I couldn't look behind. As the burden got heavier, I started hearing a hissing sound. The sound was very close to me, right behind me. Then I saw in the side view mirror there was no one behind me, but I was still feeling the burden and now it was causing me pain. Then again, I tried to look in the mirror and I saw a face with deer-like antlers and deer-like legs trying to hug me but covering my whole body. It was so shocking that I lost my balance and tripped. When I was on the ground, I saw the man looking so tall as if he was 10 to 12 feet long. Then the man stepped on top of me and started biting my face, my ears, and my body. And then I lost my consciousness. When I woke up, it was all blurry and I could not get up. I then realized that I'd been dragged way inside the forest. Somehow I got up and tried to find my phone, but I couldn't. All I could find was a small holy pendant in my pocket. Then I remembered about stopping at a shrine or dargah. The priest who gave me the pendant said I might need this. I shrugged off what the priest said and didn't believe in, but now I totally believe him and the truth of the other entities hovering in our world. I love stories like this personally because I personally believe that there are mystical monsters and beings out there that do have the ability to come in and out of dimensions. Kind of like the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, and many other like entities, monsters that are reported but we can never capture on camera. And this story, maybe he ran into a skinwalker that's able to manipulate into the shape and form of a human being or even an animal that look innocent until you're lured by it and they try to eat you up and take your soul and whatever. Was he really unconscious for 5 days to a week? Did the pendulum really help save him? What kind of powers are there in tools like this, like pendulum, the Bible, the cross, the Ankh? And have you guys ever met these weird creatures? Back in 2008, when the inflation happened, my family and I were forced to move to a new house with cheaper rent. I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and me, being the youngest of 5 siblings, was pretty excited to move to a new place and share my room with my siblings for the first time. We moved in and everything seemed fine for the first few weeks. One day, my mother was home alone cooking lunch for herself while everyone else was at school and father at work. She started to hear the sound of small children's feet running around on the floor above her, where me and my siblings' room were located. She didn't think anything of it and she assumed it was me and my siblings playing until the realization hit her. We were all at school. Her stomach dropped and immediately got paranoid, but told herself it must have been her imagination because she was tired and overworked. It started to occur more frequently to her. She would hear children running around, sometimes even children giggling, but only when she was alone in the house. Around the same time, me and my siblings started to fall ill. We continued to get more and more sick, throwing up, high fever 24/7, and couldn't figure out why. We all went to the doctors who told us we had the same symptoms as mold poisoning. My parents then examined the house and tried to figure out where the mold could be located. To their surprise, there was a huge, alarming amount of mold in just one single room out of our entire house, me and my siblings' room. The same room my mother had heard the ghost children playing in. They contacted our landlord to talk to him about the mold and questioned him how could he rent out a house for us with a room that was so clearly a serious health hazard. He too was so shocked about the amount, but answered that when he had checked the house prior to us moving in, everything was in perfect condition, and there was certainly no mold in the children's room. It had to have gotten there during the 6-7-ish week we had managed to live so far. But the weird thing is, mold develops only on wet material or when moisture is present. But nowhere was there such anything in a room. The mold was only growing in the area around our bed. Needless to say, we moved out of there pretty swiftly. After moving to a new house once again, everything was back to normal. We slowly recovered from our illness. One day, my parents were unpacking at our current house, and my father, mind you, who is very old school and does not believe in anything but science, out of nowhere confessed in a very serious demeanor to my mother he had heard ghost children running around giggling in our previous house whenever he was alone. My mother was shocked and confessed she too had some experiences but never told a soul for fear of being called crazy. I tried to look up the history of the house to see if there were a family with children who had died there, but I had no luck. Whoever or whatever these ghost children are, they must have died a long time ago, and they must be pretty malevolent to try and poison me and my siblings, almost as if they wanted to replace us in order to have our parents. I did ask the subscriber if they remember as kids seeing anything, because usually kids see stuff and adults can't as we grow out of it. But in this case, it was flipped, so that's also very interesting. Next story is by Anaya. I was born on 16th November 1998, the very day my grandfather's mother passed away. She loved my grandfather and his son, my father, and right before dying, she had told my father that she wanted to be reborn as his child. I was born 4 hours after she died in the same hospital, a healthy baby girl. Since I was a child, my grandfather believed me to be his mother's reincarnation, but no one else paid heed to what he said. The first time everyone began to believe it was when I developed a birthmark exactly where my great-grandmother had hers. I have it till this day. And then one day I was 2. When I could barely speak, I was calling his name out. In our culture, no one calls the eldest person in the house by their name, and since my grandfather was the eldest, there was no way I could have known what his name was. I also used to see flashes of his childhood, so when he would tell me stories, I'd say, I know. I was right there. I don't remember any of these stories now, and he died 8 years ago. But till the day he died, he always said I was a blessing, that he got to see his beloved mother grow up in front of his eyes. Wow, so how many of you guys believe in reincarnation? I do believe in reincarnation, but it is interesting how you wanted to reborn on Earth 4 hours later, because to me, sometimes I'm like, Earth is ghetto. Like, let me stay on the spirit side. Like, why come back that soon? But I guess your soul really loved your family, your soul family, and just wanted to come back like really quickly. We forget our past lives so that we can move on and build a new life with our new body here. Because technically, like in my last video interview with Miss Tracy, who is a higher self and past life hypnotist, like she said, if we had all the burden and all the knowledge of our past life, I mean, we would get caught up and never be able to move on from our past. Go check out that interview as well I did with Tracy. We had a fascinating conversation about past life and higher self hypnosis. So what have you guys thought about all these unexplainable paranormal stories, real stories from you guys? If you guys have any stories, remember to comment down below and check out everybody's stories in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and see you guys in my next video.